Hi, you are listening to KVSF The Voice. This is Art Fusion with Ron Whitmore, taking the vibration of art and music and creating a whole new wave. What a great show we have today. We got two vibrant, beautiful women in here. We have Nancy Reyner as our visual artist and Cynthia Becker as our musician, and she's going to be doing some live music accompanied by Don Curry on the guitar. And we're going to start out with the visual part, and the whole idea behind this art fusion is that the vibration of art is a light vibration. The vibration of music is a sound vibration. We are vibrational creatures. You take these vibrations, you put them together, and you hit a whole new wave, a whole new height. And I've noticed it, having been an artisan for 28 years, that the artists that are coming in, a lot of them are musicians. A lot of the musicians that I played with are artists. So we're just taking the two art forms and just raising it up a little bit. So Nancy, welcome.
Thanks, Ron. Hi.
It's great to have you here.
Thanks. I like the whole concept of the music and musician and artist together. It's nice.
Well, do you listen to music when you play, when you do your art?
In fact, you gave me Cynthia's CD yesterday, and I painted to it. It's fabulous.
Totally cool.
Nice. And well, let's start out with your art career. You started out in Philadelphia?
I grew up in Philadelphia, moved to Rhode Island to go to college there, then moved to New York City.
Where did you go to college in Rhode Island?
There is Brown University, I forgot. But I went to Rhode Island School of Design.
Nice.
And then that was
taking
my bachelor's.
art classes, design classes? What were you doing?
It's a really interesting school. It was back then in the 70s when I was there, but they only had 2 people from every state. So it was a pretty interesting group of people.
Okay.
People that go to Rhode Island School of Design created South Park. The Talking Heads were there when I was there, and it was a great experience. And I changed my major every year.
Okay.
Much to the dismay of the administration.
From calculus to what?
Calculus,
really?
Yeah, right. No.
Okay.
I started off the first year, it's a 4-year program,
Okay.
like most bachelors of fine arts degrees. And so I started off, the first year is freshman foundation, which is everything. You get photography and painting and drawing, which I hope they still do, because that is really important for depending on whatever, even if you're going to be an architect or a fashion designer, you're still going to need those skills. So I always liked Betsy Johnson, the fashion designer, when I was younger, and I wanted to be her. So my first year, freshman foundation, then my first real year was in fashion design.
Okay.
And some reason I thought I would make costumes for people, but that sort of didn't work in that environment. So I didn't fit in, but I liked to sew a lot. So I switched to puppetry.
Okay.
For a semester, and then illustration, printmaking. I just never thought, coming from, I guess, a middle-class background, I just didn't know that you could be a painter.
Were your parents? Your parents weren't
artists? Parents are both teachers.
Okay.
School teachers, and I just never knew any professional painters. I never knew any artists. So there I was. I kept thinking, oh, I'm here with all these artists. That's really cool, but I can't make a living as an artist. So I will be an illustrator, or I'll be that's why I kept changing.
Were you doing art back then? Were you doing visual arts, doing paintings?
Yeah, I mean, when you go to art school, especially Rhode Island School of Design, you're taking everything. I learned how to do darkroom work and sculpture and design and color.
Okay.
And so back then, they did change their focus, but back then, the idea was that we didn't learn anything about portfolios or business, just art and how to be really creative, how to think out of the box. And so from Rhode Island School of Design, I went to New York City. I had a girlfriend who lived right in the middle of the city.
Okay.
And that was a great time. And if I look back on it now and I think, God, I had balls, Is that okay to say on the radio?
Sure.
I was so confident.
I think it's okay.
School.
Alex Baldwin does.
I'm not sure about it, but I think it's okay.
We'll find out when we listen if they ask that word. But I I just went to New York City, and that was in the early 80s.
Okay.
And everything was wide open.
It's
got
such a vibrant city. Yeah.
tons of jobs. Must have had 12 different jobs.
Doing
everything
puppetry.
I worked on Broadway making puppets.
Okay.
And
Nice.
I think it was Alice in Wonderland was the Broadway show with Kate Burton, and I made these giant oysters. But anyway, it was just fun. The city was
I'm
really
intrigued.
fun. And it just was a really good time where you could just go around and get jobs. I mean, I guess it's different now. But I also I would look in the paper and I said, oh, look, a graphic design job. And I didn't even know what graphic design was. That was the one area I did not study in school. So I applied for the job, and I got a book on graphic design for dummies or whatever it was back then, and got the job. And I'll never forget, that was when they had T-squares and graphic tables.
We still have T-squares. We saw them at
T-squares?
Artisan.
Oh, you
They
do?
still exist.
That was really fun back then. And I remember I sat down for my first day of work, and it was with a book publishing company, and I was everything was done by hand back then. They didn't have computers. So
Yeah.
I had the T-square on the right side. I didn't know. I mean, and someone walked by and they said, I've never seen someone use a T-square on the right. And I just said, oh, yeah, I do it all the time, and I'm so embarrassed. I thought, I've been had, I've been found out. But
So how did you come from New York out west? What brought you out here? Because you were
it was
also
about
in
10 years
Phoenix, weren't you? Because I'm from Phoenix originally.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, I'm from Phoenix, born and raised, West Phoenix.
Wow.
Yep. Lived there till I was 28 years old. Glad to get out of there.
Yeah, it's hot. It's
Love
hot.
Santa Fe. Yeah, but you're also
So from New York City, I lived there about 10 years.
Okay.
And my last job I really liked it a lot. It was running the Arts for Transit program for the MTA, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
okay.
And I really liked that mix of community and public and art and the corporate, or what do you call the MTA, corporate kind of government.
okay.
Government.
And what was that? That was doing art in the subways, or
Yeah, I set up a whole program for them, and it's still running, as far as I know, where the MTA would give 50% of a grant towards a project. New York City is fascinating. They had like 450 subway stations. I can't believe I remember that number.
okay.
And each subway station was surrounded by a community that was very particular, a Polish community, Italian community,
Sure.
a Chinese community. And they would come to us and say, oh, we have this art project. We want to do it. It costs $10,000. And then we would give them $5,000. And I would look at the budget, make sure that it could be done, and talk to the engineers and make sure that it wouldn't encourage
So you
people
got a
to
lot
fall
of
into the
business
subway.
background following your art career. I mean,
Yeah.
I have always picked up that you have a lot of business savvy besides just being the right side of your brain.
Well, there is the left side of the brain but I also went to Columbia for arts business.
Okay.
Which
All
so
right.
I have to reveal my secret.
Okay.
Activating that
I
other
knew that
side.
you were hiding something.
Yeah. And that taught me a lot. It was we had marketing and legal advice, copyright, trademark.
Okay.
And the business side, accounting, and then for my electives, I took painting in the painting department. So it was interesting. I always liked mixing both the left and the right brain together.
Yeah.
And that teaching, that's why I like to teach. It's how
I was wondering how you got into teaching, because I know your parents were both teachers, you just said.
Yeah.
And so you teach workshops. I know you coach. You do. You've taught at the Artisan Material Expo. You teach your private workshops in your studio now. Is that a passion of yours?
Well, yeah, my parents, I mentioned before, were both teachers.
Okay.
So the dining room table was always about students and teaching, and my father was very interested in new age teaching, and since I was little. So,
okay. Well, we're going to get right back with your teaching and more of your career. This is KVSF 101.5. This is the voice of Santa Fe. You're listening to Art Fusion, taking the vibration of art and music to a whole new level. We'll be right back.
La la da 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 da. Now Paul is a real estate novelist. Sing us a song, you're the piano man. Sing us a song tonight. Well, we're all in the mood for...
Okay, we are back. We are with Nancy Reyner as our visual artist, and then we're going to be joined by Cynthia Becker singing some original music accompanied by Mr. Don Curry. But we're still with Nancy right now, and Nancy, you got numerous books out. I mean, one of your skills is always been teaching, but I think your teaching skills have been reflected in your books, because I actually looked through all your books last night. And how many books do you have?
The fourth one will be coming out in March.
Okay.
Next year.
And the first one was Acrylic Revolution, right?
Right.
And that one really kind of put you on the map, or how? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it hit big. I really had no clue that it would do that, but it did, which I'm happy about.
And as we have a lot of artists that are listening to this, how do you get a book published? How did you go about it?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So there are a couple publishers that specialize in how-to or painting instruction or art instruction.
Okay.
And North Light was the one that I picked. I actually, Barnes and, Borders was around back then, and I just went on the shelf and looked. And
North Light, I think, is the biggest one.
North Light was the biggest.
FW
There's
Publishing,
a couple of other ones, but but North Light was my favorite. And so I just called them up, and I left a message on the machine, and I just said, well, I hear that you like teachers to write books on art, and I have one. It was the lamest. It was the lamest message.
It for me?
And they called back the next morning.
Really?
That's how easy it is.
Okay.
And so what I'd like to explain is that I was holding back for a couple of years. I wanted to write a book about my teaching and my painting, but I said, well, I'm not a writer. I can't write. So, or I thought I wasn't, and now I think I really am, but because I love writing as much as painting, actually. But back then, North Light, they are looking for teachers who are teaching a specific art skill.
Okay.
And they will call up teachers. They will go to expos similar to your Artisan Expo that you have every other year.
Uh-huh.
They'll go around to those workshops, teachers, and they'll say, hey, want to write a book about this. And they'll say, just give us our lesson plans and a few photographs. It's a little harder than that, but not really.
Yeah.
And the editor will fix it because they have a formula of how they want what they call their readers, how they want their readers to understand concepts. But when I approached, so I had this lovely guy, Jamie Markle, who's now running. I know
Jamie really well. Yeah,
running North Light.
Great
He's great.
Yeah.
He was the one that called me back, and he said, "Well, what do you got?" And I was so surprised. And I said,
"Did
well,
you
it's
have
a book
the manuscript
done
then, or what?"
Well, I did. I had written my entire book on color mixing, which I
in
was
acrylic.
Told was really just in anything.
Anything, okay.
I was doing oil paint back then, and he goes, "Well, color mixing. I don't know if we can really market that. What else? Do you do something with acrylic?" Well, yeah. He said, "Well, how about a book of a bunch of acrylic techniques?" I go, well, "That's so easy." Sure, okay. So we worked together on it, and it was his idea to have one technique per page.
Okay.
And I said, well, look, I don't like how-to books. I hate to say this, but I don't like how-to books. When I read them, they're usually how to copy somebody's way of painting.
Sure.
And my whole teaching shtick is how can you, whoever you are, each individual, make the work that they want to make, and how can they feel empowered enough to make it better?
Okay.
And so I said, well, I want to make it my own way, like just techniques, not finished paintings, but just... and he said, well, sure, we want to expand our audience, so go ahead and do your thing. And the whole time I was writing it, working with my editor, she kept saying, well, that's not how our readers want to read it. I said, but your readers are going to be different with this book. And sure enough, I decided... When I first started writing, I thought, should I read other how-to books? And I thought, no, I'm just going to write it the way, what kind of book do I want?
Yeah.
If I want to cook, I want to open up a recipe book and I want a bunch of recipes. I could just pick out what I want, make a whole dinner.
Yeah, well, I noticed it basically changes subjects on each page. It's like how to do this, how to do this in acrylics, and every page is like a new thought.
Yeah, and it also went along with using acrylic in a different way too, because at that time it was like 7-8 years ago, and still to this day, I think acrylic is often taught as an alternative to oil or watercolor, and they're trying to kind of control the medium to be something that it's not. And I love to be an inventor. I think of myself as a painter, but also an inventor. And I stand in my studio every day, not every day, but I'll stand in there and I'll say, what would happen if I do this? How can I change this? How can I? And so that all those techniques were about how acrylic could act differently than any other medium. Once I realized that acrylic wasn't oil or watercolor, it was its own unique animal. How can I let that animal out, let it loose? And I came up with all these inventions. And when you're working with acrylic, often acrylic painters will work in layers. Mm-hmm. That's how it's mostly different from watercolor or oil
because
paint.
Of the drying time, because the properties,
all of those.
Because you mix all kinds of stuff too, don't you? Do gold leaf and
mixed media. It's good for mixed media. It's a glue. It's your painting with a glue, so
right.
you can. And it has different properties, like you said. But I think that the idea behind the first book, Acrylic Revolution, is that it's over 100 techniques, which means you could just throw an I Ching or pick 3-4 pages and say, what would happen if I do each technique in a different layer?
Okay.
So let's say you take technique 15, technique 30, technique 40, and you pile them on top of each other. You may come up with a look or a surface that nobody else has come up with.
Your own unique look.
So it's like an inventor's recipe book for acrylic painting.
And then Golden, you also was in the working artist program with Golden Artist Colors. Was that before the book? Or did they read the book and then pick up on you? Because you were almost like a sponsored athlete. I mean, I like to look. I like to. I mean, it's basically they picked up on you, and you were doing workshops all over the world, weren't you?
Well, I do have to give Golden Artist Colors is their official name. I have to give them credit because I was already teaching oil paint and life drawing. Those were my specialties. And then somebody asked me to teach color mixing, color in acrylic. And I was, paint is paint.
Yeah.
And it is. It's all pigment and some binder. You just have to figure out the binder. So I said, sure. So I called Golden up. Again, this is the balls. Since I don't
You make the call. You make the phone call.
That is my advice for artists.
Okay. What is your advice?
Just be confident and do what you got to do. Never doubt what you're doing. Just do it. And I think people hold themselves back so often, and I don't. Because if I get an idea, it irks me. It just sort of eats away until I call the
action.
Company or call the... So I just called Golden and I said, I'm doing a workshop. Do you have these? I heard you have these packets that you hand out, and it was Barb Golden that answered the phone. And we have this teaching program, and they sent me to California. I said, sure, I'll do it.
Okay.
They actually paid me to go and learn for a year.
It's an amazing company, Golden. I mean, we deal with a lot of paint companies, but Golden is one of the most progressive companies as far as. I mean, they do fellowships for artists back in New York. I toured their facility last year. Unbelievable.
It's a good company, and now that I'm not officially with them anymore, it feels good to promote them because they really are.
They're nice people too.
Yeah, I could really get into that more. I mean, they do everything from environment. The whole factory is filtered so that nothing goes in the environment. And
so, are you working primarily in acrylic now?
No, I've always been a kind of a multi-medium person. I like everything from silver point, watercolor, oil pastel, oil paint, leafing, mixed media. But I'm known because of the books for the acrylic, and acrylic really is the contemporary medium of the time, I think.
So go through your books real quick. The first one, Acrylic Revolution. And I know personally because I've been around your career for many years. After that book, your career took off. I mean, all of a sudden, I was seeing you at trade shows. I was seeing we sell out your workshop. One of the first people when you teach at the Artisan Material Expo. I mean, all of a sudden, it seems like your popularity just went through the roof.
I think writing a book is really helpful if you're an artist and you have something unique that you're doing. If you write a book, it really gets you out there.
And like a musician doing their CD.
Yes, yes. But I think that it was a combination of writing the book and being part of Golden's working artist technical consultant group where I would go around and demonstrate. And I had the 4 states Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. And I would go around and do demonstrations at universities and arts, and they were free. So, that is also, artists need to do more demonstrations for free because you get...
We were actually laughing at the break because Nancy was explaining one of the demos she did at Artisan for Golden Artist Materials. She did right behind the snake cage, and Delilah at the time was the 275-pound python. And the python was so interested in what she was doing that it came up against the glass and started looking out over Nancy's shoulder while she was teaching, which created quite a stir with the students. So, but we're going to be right back. You're listening to KVSF 1015, the voice of Santa Fe. This is Art Fusion. We're going to be back with Nancy Reyner and Cynthia Becker.
This is killing me as a smile ran away from his face. But I'm sure that I could be a movie star if I could get out of this place. Sing us a song, you're the piano man.
Okay, we are back. You are listening to Art Fusion 1015, the voice taking the vibration of art and music and creating a whole new wave. We are with Nancy Reyner, and she was talking pretty much about her books, but we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit because we were talking off break. You're not really showing in galleries now. That's kind of a change for you, isn't it? Or
Well, I have a gallery in Boston, but I have 2 agents that are not in New Mexico. I don't have
art
a gallery.
agents that are marketing your work? Or
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing, and I recommend it for instead of galleries. If you don't need the opening and all of that hubbub and glamour,
Okay.
I just send it to the agent and they place it.
place your artwork in collections or with collectors, or how does that?
All of that, yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, they place my paintings, and I usually get the money back in a couple months. So
Nice.
yeah, it's just easy.
Well, I was over at your studio about a month ago, and it looks like as you walk into your studio, the first part looks like a gallery, and then it seems like you have multiple pieces, 6 tables you're working on, an instructional area. I mean, it's more than just a studio. It's like almost a showroom, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I decided not to have I've had maybe 10 different galleries in Santa Fe, but I decided not to have a local gallery because I have this great studio, and mostly I think people like to see the process, paintings in process. So when you walk into my studio, and it's open to the public by appointment only. So if somebody contacts me,
Because you're working in there almost every day.
yeah, so I wouldn't function very well painting and having people just in and out. But if somebody schedules an appointment with me, they can come, and in the front I have a gallery space where I have some of my work showing, and then I work on, like you said, 8 pieces at a time, so they're all in different stages, and I think that makes it really interesting for people to see all those layers in different...
Those are your collectors, but what else are you doing? Are you coaching, teaching there?
Oh yeah, well I love teaching. I don't think I'll ever quit teaching. It's just one of my favorite things to do. And
You have a definite gift for teaching, because I remember at the Artisan Material Expo, you were there 2 hours early in your class, getting your classroom ready, and we had instructors that were on the vendor floor, and they would run in 5 minutes before their class trying to grab their materials to get their class, but you showed up 2 hours getting everything ready. You really seem to care about your students.
Yeah, you could call it obsessive. But
I didn't want to go there.
Thanks, Ron. No, I really care when I have when I have 20 people in a class. I want to make sure everybody has enough space to do the work. And,
you're a professional. Yeah.
Well, I care about it. You're
Yeah.
right. But so right now, instead of traveling, that was really a lot of effort for me to travel 5-6 times a year to teach a 1-week workshop, and then it was in a space that wasn't necessarily conducive to teaching. So now I teach in my studio, and people will call me and say they'll bring a couple friends, and so I'll have maybe 4 or 5 people at a time, or one private person.
Day classes, week classes,
Whatever.
month classes, custom.
It's custom.
Okay,
So
whatever
usually,
somebody wants.
Yeah, usually if somebody calls or emails me or calls me and says that they're interested in learning a technique, or they have never painted before and they want to know what they should use, I will talk to them for about a half an hour on the phone for free first, so we can really get a handle on what is the best thing for them. And then...
Are you teaching primarily acrylic?
No. In fact, one woman came and said she, like I said, wanted to take painting classes, but she didn't know what to study.
Yeah.
So I actually had a table of every different medium out, so we could go from watercolor to pastel to oil paint to acrylic, and I did the pros and cons for each. It was 1 hour.
Okay. That's a great
fast
idea.
track.
Yeah.
You know,
so what do you like? What do you?
Yeah.
What grabs you? Yeah.
So whatever somebody needs, I will set that whole studio up for them and have the materials there for them so that they can really figure out what they want to do next. And
how do you balance your day? I mean, is it teaching part of the day? Do you producing part of the day?
Well,
you
I'm
also
not really-
meditate. I read because I
Yeah.
meditate too, and it kind of sets my day. And tell me about that.
it really makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I get up early and at home I'll meditate. I practice something that Paramahansa Yogananda
Sure.
set out, and that is what is it called? The Self-Realization Institute in LA has those. But anyway, so yeah, I do that meditation, and then I go to my studio and I paint, and I fit in other things around it. But teaching, I don't advertise heavily about the teaching, so I only have maybe one student every 2 weeks.
Okay.
For a whole day.
So most of the time is still producing your own artwork.
Yes, I'm keeping that as a priority so that if someone calls me and asks for a lesson, I will look at my schedule and I won't book myself too much.
And you've also invented your own artboard now. The lightweight panel
Yes,
that you're
well,
now producing. 'Cause
I like I said, I like to invent, so I do a lot of odd things in painting. I will pour acrylic to create surfboard finishes and interesting marbleized techniques, and I will also sand with an electric sander paint layers down to get fragments. It's one of the things I like doing the most, and so you can't do that on canvas. The canvas would sag
Right.
or rip. And so I've been working with panels for a while. There's a lot of commercial panels that are available, but the problem is they use hardboard, and when you get large sizes, and I like to work like 4 feet by 6 feet is my favorite size.
Yeah.
That's heavy. And remember,
But you developed this because we were over at your studio because we're Artisan is going to start carrying this, and it's your own lightweight panel that you invented.
Yes, so that's what I was saying is they're heavy if you buy the commercial ones, and I like certain sizes too, custom. So I finally figured out a way to make. It's been a couple of years in the making. So a friend of mine is making the panels for me and is now selling them at Artisans with my name on it, which is kind of fun.
Well, that's part of the marketing genius I think that you have between your books and your panels, and I mean I think artists need to get their name out. Marketing is definitely a part. A lot of people think, I'm just going to get really good, I'm going to create stuff, and people will find me and I'll become famous. But it's a little harder than that.
You do have to put yourself out there a little bit.
Yeah.
But the panels, so many of my students kept asking me about where I get my panels, and I only knew my friend who makes them. So now that they're available at the art store, it'll be easier for me to just say, go to Artisans and get.
Well, thank you. And we're almost out of time, but is there anything left in your career that you're shooting for? I mean, you've done so much with all your books and your successes and your workshops. What's down the road? What's left? What's your goals?
My priority is to just let myself enjoy. You know, you get to a certain point where you don't have to be crazy and do a lot. And so just enjoy and see where the artwork continues to go.
Well, thank you so much for coming down to the studio. We're going to come back with Cynthia Becker and Mr. Don Curry on guitar. This is KVSF 1015, the voice of Santa Fe. You're listening to Art Fusion with Ron Whitmore, taking the vibration of art and music to a whole new vibration.
He gets me my drinks for free, and he's quick with a joke or to light up your smoke, but there's some place that he'd rather be.
The views and opinions expressed on the previous program.
But it's better than drinking alone.
And we are back with Art Fusion. Thank you, Nancy, for such a great interview. I wish people could see where we are right now, because we have 6 people stuffed into this 10 by 10 studio. We have Don Curry on the guitar. We have Danny on the soundboard. We have Cynthia getting ready to sing. We have Masako with the camera. Nancy Reyner over in one corner. And this is all part of the vibration that, seriously, of blending the visual arts with the music. And I think we have just as much fun at the breaks as we're having at the radio program. So I just want to thank you all for showing up and being a part of this. We're going to be taking this show actually to Artisan starting in January, where we're going to be able to have a live studio audience. We're going to keep the same time, Thursdays at noon, but we're going to be recording it right from the stage of Artisan. So if you'd want to come down and you want to be part of the studio audience and listen to the visual artists talk about their career and listen to the musicians, please feel free. After January, we have one more to end out the year, and then we're going to be starting the whole new vibe at Artisan. Cynthia,
Hey.
Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for inviting me.
Cynthia, I'm a musician, and we have never crossed paths until I heard your music on Facebook and absolutely fell in love with it.
Well, thank you. I actually had seen you. I was at Artisans many times when you did the music
Oh, okay.
performances, yeah.
Okay. Well, I actually probably waited on a lot of people at Artisans oblivious to who I'm waiting on, too. So thank you for coming down and sharing your music.
Yeah.
What is your background?
Wow, my background. I started doing music when I was 17.
Okay.
And it was original music, which I guess, I thought everybody did original music. 'Cause
Here in
I did
Santa
it.
Fe?
No, it was in Chicago.
Okay.
When I was a kid. And then I moved here in 1995, and I had not sung in about 10 years. And I was raising babies and doing all that stuff, plus my day job.
Yeah.
I'm a DOM. I'm a doctor of Oriental Medicine. So
Okay.
yeah. So music.
You have a big day job besides, so you're balancing
Huge,
two
yeah.
careers here.
Yeah. Although I used to keep them really separate, and the last 15 years they've sort of merged. I had a huge band for about 10 years with my husband.
Okay. What band was that?
It was Justice.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Playing
did-
in Santa Fe, Albuquerque, New
Yep.
Mexico? Okay.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
and that was like a 10-piece band with a lot of horns because I was fresh from Chicago. I still love that. And then with the album that I did with Larry Mitchell, who is
love
he used
that
to live
album.
here. He's a Grammy Award-winning producer guitarist. Sam well trained. So he did this album for me last March, and it came out in December. And I have gotten.
What's the album called?
It's called "I'm Coming Home." It's the
Okay.
title song. Actually, I wrote with Larry, and we're about to do a video for that with Leah Morales in January.
Well, let's talk more about that, but I want to get into your music a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
What song are you going to do?
I'm going to do "Anna Called."
Okay.
This is off the new album that Larry produced, and this song's pretty wild. I used Anna because it's one of my niece's names, and she's a drummer.
Nice. And I got to thank Mr. Don Curry because we just pulled him in to back her up on this. Don is one of the great rockers in this town, and he's going to be our musical guest next week. But let's hear the song.
And you ask me, in what key do you sing? I say it's in the one that makes you ring, and it registers, and my voice is heard. And I tell you it's not that you're mean, I just don't dig this scene, and it keeps going on, and I feel something wrong. And I called to say she's sorry, but she can't go on like this. She told me not to worry, that she's gone to find her bliss, and this ain't it. And I called and she said that her heart's being bled. And you made me go back on my word, talk out of turn, and you keeping on, and the feeling's gone, and he needs a woman to keep him in. Without her, he's just the same. Anna called and she said that her spirit's feeling bad. Anna called to say she's sorry, but she can't go on like this. She told me not to worry, that she's gone to find her bliss, and this ain't it. Anna called and she said that her heart's being bled. Anna called and she's gone, oh, but her love was strong. Oh, Anna's through and she's walking, so very bored with the talking. Oh, Anna's off on her own, sir. She said her heart is feeling stronger. Yeah, her heart is stronger. Wow, that was great, Don. Thank you. Thanks.
And for those of you listening, this is live performance here. This isn't any dubbed, synchronated, added on.
I know, my lips got dry. I was nervous.
It sounded great. You
Cool.
sound beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us about your process, your songwriting.
Oh, that song was pretty wild. It actually, I dreamt that whole song. I was in a
Really?
recording studio, and it was funny, too, when we were recording it, because Larry asked me the same question. He's always, like, videotaping you.
Yeah.
I dreamt the whole song, and I was Anna. And there was some guy in the booth, like a booth above me, and I couldn't see his face, and he was asking me, like writing you, what key do you sing in?
Yeah.
And this whole song just came to me, and I was wearing a red dress. And he said, well, why don't you go put on a red dress? And so I did. Yeah, we recorded at my house, actually.
And what about your other songwriting process? How do you,
Oh, there's
How
so
does
many
it-
different ways
yeah.
it comes. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I actually last year bought a piano. Sometimes
Okay.
I'll fiddle around on the piano and find a little note. But like last night, I was starting to tell you in the other room, I had a little rap thing I was doing because I was watching a video of Nina Simone.
Uh-huh.
It was something about, if you want to be my man, something like that. So I was like playing around with this like weird little beat, and it reminded me of when my son Joe was doing spoken word at Warehouse 21.
Okay.
And like 15...
My kids performed at Warehouse 21 too.
Yeah, so Joe started the spoken word there, and
Nice.
I went to go see him. And he kind of did an impromptu. I did this song called Chocolate Sandwich. And he said, hey, Mom, why don't you get up and do it? And I just totally freaked out. So I did it with like 20 people in chairs.
Wow.
So I
How
actually
cool.
did one last night. But Nancy was too scared to do it. So we're not going to do that today. We're going to stick with the program.
So what are you doing now? What band are you playing?
I'm playing with Underground Cadence,
Okay.
Who is doing a lot of my original music. And I'm about to do like a little 45. I want to do a recording with Desanti Nava, who is the lead guitar player and the leader of our band. He is a fabulous guitar player. So they do all my music, and we're on a little hiatus right now.
Okay. Where do you record at? You record in
Well, I'm not sure where I'm going to do this
Okay, so
next
you're-
recording, but the last one was with Larry at my house.
Nice.
Yeah, if you can believe that.
So you're taking a hiatus now, and where do when you do perform, is it down in Albuquerque? Is it Taos?
We've been
Is
getting
it
a
here?
lot of gigs down in Albuquerque, so we've been playing a lot at Rock and Brews and at Route 66, and we're going to be. I'm very, very excited. We're going to be playing at Camel Rock
Oh, okay.
Casino in the spring. So yeah, I'm having fun.
That's great. And how much songwriting do you do?
Every day I write.
Do you really?
If anybody is on Facebook, I do a lot of poetry. I'm doing a poetry book too.
Okay.
So sometimes lyrics come out of that, and sometimes they just kind of write themselves. I did a whole tune last night.
Do you write stories?
It's called Popular. Yeah,
Popular.
Popular.
What is popular?
Oh, well, it's about what's the flavor of the moment.
Okay.
And sometimes that can be you, and sometimes it cannot be.
Well, I actually started following you on Facebook, and I love your spontaneous poetry. And,
Thank you so
and
much.
you can really tell it's from the heart too. I mean, it's just, that's something about spontaneity when you don't put your mind, and your mind filters it out when you just put it out there.
Being brave.
Yeah,
is
being
another
brave.
way to say what Nancy was saying.
Just going for it.
Yeah, being brave. Well, you got to say it, and that's all my thing about being a spirit warrior, which is also inside the album when you purchase the album.
Being a spirit warrior.
Well, if you have some issues with anybody or anything in front of you, it's not them. It's you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So go inside if you want to stop what's going on. Stop the noise.
Is that part of your philosophy as a doctor of Oriental medicine too?
All of it. Sometimes I do better than others. I do myself too. I out myself daily.
Is that acupuncture and what
I do a lot of. I specialize in pain management with the acupuncture. But over the years, I got to tell you, I'm very ethereal. So there's a lot of healing that takes place on different levels.
Okay.
Body, mind, and spirit, all three.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell that. I can sense that in you.
Well, you brought it up too. It's the light, man. If you can meditate and get that, reaction, the neutral witness going, you can stay in the flow. And even if you're not, get it back in the flow, even be in chaos. Chaos sometimes is in the flow.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I bet you got another song in you.
I got another song in me.
This
is about my dad.
Okay. Before we do that, I just want to announce that at the next session we're going to have Francisco Benitez with us. He's a great encaustic artist, and for those of you that aren't familiar with him, his mother was Maria Benitez, the flamenco dancer, and Francisco is just a totally cool dude. And we're going to have Mr. Don Curry, who's backing Cynthia on the guitar right now. He's going to play some of his original music next week. So thank you all so much for being a part of this, and let's take it out. Thank you, Cynthia. And Nancy. Reyner.
Daddy, why couldn't you see the wife you had? She was beautiful. Daddy, why couldn't you be the kind of man who was wonderful? When you were home, it was a bad, bad scene. Never once did you think that half of me. Daddy, why were you so cold? Doesn't it feel lonely growing old? I miss you, Papa, how I wish you were here. Papa never felt success. You gotta work like a dog is what he said. My daddy started out with dreams, but his dreams turned to dust and were put to bed. It took me nearly all my life to feel Papa's pain, and it wasn't mine. My daddy was a real good man, but he couldn't show his love or understand. Papa, oh Papa, I miss you. Papa, how I wish you were here. Papa, oh Papa, I'd kiss you. Papa, how I wish